Well, welcome once again to Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Episode 76 is ready to go, and boy, we have a fantastic one tonight. Because in the early 1980s, video games were in serious trouble, and the industry that had once been booming with excitement and innovation was collapsing under its own weight. Oversaturation, poor quality games, and a lack of consumer trust had brought the market to its knees. But from across the Pacific, a company known for making playing cards and arcade machines was preparing to take a bold step that would change entertainment forever. That company was Nintendo, and its creation, the Nintendo Entertainment System. And it would not only revive the gaming industry, but also redefine what it meant to play. And we'll look at the NES on this edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Welcome to the show, as they always say. Yes, today we're exploring the full story of the Nintendo Entertainment System, the console that revived the gaming industry, created legendary franchises, and shaped the future of interactive entertainment. I'm your host, Jason Icanio. This is episode 76 on this October 9th, 2025. Welcome to Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Let's delve into the NES. By 1983, the North American video game market had imploded. The early 1980s had seen an explosion of consoles and games, but the market became flooded with low-quality titles and cheap imitations. Companies like Atari, once the face of gaming, released rushed and poorly designed products such as E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which became a symbol of the industry's downfall. Retailers were left with unsold inventory, and consumers lost faith in video games altogether. The crash wiped out billions of dollars in revenue and left the future of gaming uncertain. While the American market was collapsing, Japan was experiencing a different story. Nintendo, a company with roots in toy manufacturing and arcade games, had been experimenting with home consoles. In 1983, they released the family computer, or Famicom, in Japan. It was affordable, reliable, and capable of producing colorful, arcade-quality graphics. The Famicom quickly became a household name, selling millions of units and proving that home gaming still had potential. Nintendo saw an opportunity, and if they could bring this success to the United States, they might be able to revive the entire industry. But convincing American retailers and consumers after such a massive crash would be no easy task. Nintendo knew that simply releasing the Famicom in the U.S. wouldn't work. The term video game had become toxic, and retailers wanted nothing to do with it. So Nintendo reimagined the console from the ground up. The Famicom's bright red and white design was replaced with a sleek, gray, futuristic look. And the system was renamed the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, to distance it from the failed consoles of the past. Nintendo's marketing strategy was brilliant. They positioned the NES not as a video game console, but as an entertainment system. To reinforce this idea, they bundled it with accessories like the Zapper light gun and R.O.B, or R.O.B the robot, which is a toy robot that interacted with certain games. And these additions made the NES seem more like a high-tech toy than a traditional console, which helped it gain acceptance from skeptical retailers. In 1985, Nintendo launched the NES in New York City as a test market. The rollout was cautious, and only 100,000 units were shipped. But the results were overwhelmingly positive. Consumers were impressed by the system's reliability, graphics, and innovative games. Encouraged by the success, Nintendo expanded nationwide in 1986, and within a year, the NES was a household name and video games were officially back. The NES's success wasn't just about hardware. It was about the games. Nintendo's first-party titles set new standards for creativity, gameplay, and storytelling. Super Mario Bros., released in 1985, was a revelation. Introduced smooth side-scrolling gameplay, hidden secrets, and precise controls that made it both accessible and challenging. The game's design philosophy, simple to learn, difficult to master, became a blueprint for countless titles that followed. Then came The Legend of Zelda in 1986, a game that redefined what a home console experience could be. It offered an open world filled with mysteries, dungeons, and treasures, encouraging players to explore and experiment. And it also featured a groundbreaking innovation, a battery backup that allowed players to save their progress. This was revolutionary at a time when most games required players to start over every time they turned off the console. Other titles like Metroid, Mega Man, and Castlevania pushed the NES to its limits. Metroid introduced non-linear exploration and a female protagonist. Mega Man offered tight platforming and creative boss battles, and Castlevania combined gothic horror with challenging gameplay. These games didn't just entertain, they built worlds, characters, and stories that would define gaming for decades. Nintendo learned from the mistakes that caused the 1983 crash, and to prevent another flood of low-quality games, they introduced the Nintendo Seal of Quality. This seal wasn't just a marketing gimmick, it was a promise to consumers that every game had been tested and approved by Nintendo. Nintendo also implemented strict licensing agreements with third-party developers. Companies could only release a limited number of games per year, ensuring that each title received proper attention and polish. This system gave consumers confidence and helped rebuild trust in video games as a legitimate form of entertainment. Under this model, third-party developers thrived. Capcom released Mega Man and DuckTales, Konami delivered Contra and Castlevania, and Square introduced Final Fantasy, which would go on to become one of the most successful RPG franchises in history. The Seal of Quality became a symbol of reliability, and it helped the NES maintain its reputation for excellence. By the late 1980s, the NES had become more than just a console. It was a cultural phenomenon. Nintendo's characters were everywhere, on lunchboxes, cereal boxes, and Saturday morning cartoons. The company launched Nintendo Power magazine in 1988, giving players tips, maps, and previews that fueled their obsession. Accessories like the Power Glove and the NES Advantage joystick became symbols of gaming coolness, even if they didn't always work as advertised. Movies like The Wizard turned gaming into a mainstream spectacle, showcasing the NES as the ultimate entertainment device. The NES controller itself became iconic. Its simple rectangular design, D-pad, and two-button layout were revolutionary. It was intuitive, comfortable, and set the standard for every controller that followed. The NES wasn't just a product, it was a lifestyle, and it defined an entire generation's childhood. But by the early 1990s, technology had advanced, and gamers were ready for more. Nintendo introduced the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super NES in '91, ushering in the 16-bit era. But even as the industry moved forward, the NES's influence remained undeniable. The NES sold over 60 million units worldwide, making it one of the best-selling consoles of all time. It revived an industry that had been left for dead and established Nintendo as a global powerhouse. Its library of games became the foundation for franchises that still thrive today. Mario, Zelda, Metroid, and Final Fantasy all began here. Decades later, nostalgia for the NES remained strong, and the NES Classic Edition, released in 2016, sold out almost instantly, proving that the love for 8-bit gaming is timeless. Collectors, speedrunners, and retro enthusiasts continue to celebrate the console's legacy, keeping its spirit alive for new generations. The NES didn't just save gaming, it defined it. Its influence can be seen in every console, every controller, and every game that followed. It introduced the concept of franchises, standardized quality control, and showed that video games could be both art and entertainment. Modern indie developers often draw inspiration from the NES era, using pixel art and chiptune music to capture the charm and simplicity of 8-bit design. The console's emphasis on gameplay over graphics continues to influence how games are made today. From Mario's first jump to Link's first adventure, the NES gave the world heroes, stories, and memories that still resonate decades later. It wasn't just a console. It was a revolution that turned gaming into a global phenomenon. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the history of the NES. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your favorite NES memory in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being a great subscriber to the channel. We're up to 160 subscribers, 340 to 500. We'd love to get to 200, 40 away. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We'd love to have you as part of our ever-growing family of not just this show, but of great classic shows that you would like to see on our channel. Till then, I'm Jason Icanio. The next time we get together, we'll look at another interesting toy from the retro lineup, and then come back and look at the revolution that challenged the NES, and that was not the Sega Genesis, but the Sega Master System. The Sega Master System was one of the first ones on the market that decided to compete with NES. We'll look at that on episode number 78. But 77 is coming up with a very interesting episode on a very interesting toy. Which is that toy? You'll just have to kind of continue watching and listening to find out what we're going to be talking about. Till then, I'm Jason Icanio. Have yourself a great night. Bye for now.